and lots of conservation efforts on our herpetological species. So reptiles, amphibians, snakes, turtles, all of those things that we're going to talk about tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. Amber, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, should we jump in?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, so Dennis and Chris, so our first question of the night, we like to open up Nebraska Nature Nerd Night by having you guys tell us what made you a nature nerd. What was your kind of story of the nature nerd? And I know, Dennis, you've shared that before, but we always love hearing it A, and B, we might have new participants. But what brought you to the nature nerd field and also a turtle lover as well?
Okay, so I think it was in my DNA. I haven't done all that genomics yet, but once I can get that done, I think I share a lot of alleles with ancient herpetofauna. I don't have the data to prove this, but I kind of go that way. But as far as being a herpetologist, the earliest I can remember, because as a kid I was catching everything back in New England and bringing snakes and turtles into my bedroom. My mother didn't want that, so I would set up little terrariums and dresser drawers, and they would get out, and finally she gave up, saying, I can't stop them, let's build them a room in the basement.
Amazing.
But I do remember back to when I was in the 3rd grade, probably 9 years old, the teacher asked everybody in class, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember, you know, Jane wants to be president and Johnny wants to be a farmer. And I raised my hand and said, I want to be a herpetologist. And I vividly remember the teacher running to a dictionary to look it up. And then I did 2 degrees at Iowa State, then came here to Nebraska and just keep plugging away. And I plan to do it, you know, until I die. I told the university, you know, I may be 67. I'm not going to retire. You're going to have to scrape my body off the classroom floor or leave it out in the field. One of the two. It's your choice.
This is our most passionate herpetologist
I've
ever met.
Dennis, I also want to say we had very different childhoods because in 3rd grade, we had to do a project on an animal. And I told my teacher I want to do one on Komodo dragons. And she said, let's do a project on an animal that actually exists. So we have very different 3rd grade teachers here. I'm just saying, but
oh my God, that's good.
Anyway, Chris, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well and what made you a nature nerd?
Well, I would say that my nature nerdness started when I was probably a 3rd or 4th grader. I was in Boy Scouts, and so we were always out in the woods picking up skinks and toads and frogs and things like that. But my first exposure to turtles was actually on a family trip home through the Sand Hills. We were driving down Highway 2 one day in June, and there were literally hundreds of box turtles covering the highway as they migrate out at the beginning of their season. And being a kid and the Ninja Turtles being a thing at the time, I convinced my dad to stick 4 of them in the trunk and haul them home. So I had 4 box turtles that lived on an island about this big in the middle of a fish pond for the whole summer because I didn't know that they weren't aquatic turtles. And so those were my first turtles. But yeah, I came to UNL and was studying engineering, and then switched to history because I didn't want to be an engineer. And then I just kind of on a whim took some wildlife classes because I didn't even know that that was something people could major in. I switched to fisheries and wildlife management. It decided I was going to be a fisheries biologist. Took 1 class with this guy and forgot all about fish.
That happened.
And it's been herps all the time ever since.
Yeah, you got it. You joined the herpetology religion, huh?
I did.
That's excellent. Well, thank you so much. And you're both herpetologists. And just in case we have anyone in the audience who, like your teacher, Dennis, has never heard of that word before or is confused.
And we don't have dictionaries on hand.
Right. How would you define what is a herpetologist? How would you define that?
Well, it's the study of a certain group of animals, and that group of animals includes amphibians, which are frogs, toads, and salamanders. It includes turtles, or chelonians now, which are sea turtles, land tortoises, and turtles, like we have in Nebraska. And it includes squamates, which are lizards and snakes, but also all those things people consider reptiles, including crocodilians. So it's a scientist who studies, ology means study of. Herp in Greek means to crawl.
To
A
crawl.
lot of animals crawl. But herpetology has been for 2 classes now, 4 classes of animals. And so ornithologists are bird people, mammalogists study mammals. Herpetologists, we have 4 classes to study. Amphibians, chelonia, reptilia, and eusuchia or crocodilians.
Gotcha.
All right.
Very cool.
All right.
All right. Well, so tonight is all about chelonians then, right?
Right.
Right.
All about
You got
turtles. So what would, oh, I'm sorry, you go for it.
Oh, it's okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll do the next one.
I'm just so excited to get
Okay.
into it. How would you define a turtle? What makes a turtle a turtle? How are they different than other classes, as you say?
Oh, extremely different. They're the only animal in which you have the pelvic girdle, okay, pelvic girdle down here, and pectoral girdle, your arms and your,
Dennis is wearing his pelvic girdle right now, as a matter of fact.
and they have that, okay, inside the ribs. Our ribs are inside our arms. Turtles are only animal because in the embryo, these blastocysts grab the ribs and pull them to the outside and flatten them, and that becomes the bones of the shell.
Holy smokes.
So
So that happens. So they form the shell in the embryo?
yes,
Wow.
They
Well,
start
they're
to
born
form.
with their shell. They cannot take it off, right? That's a myth that a lot of
Right,
people
right.
think.
They're
Busted, busted.
Right, their backbone is is incorporated in each one of these flattened ribs that are connected together as bones, and they don't correspond to the scutes or scales on top of the bone. That bone is living and growing, okay, and it grows throughout their whole life, and it's vascular, so it needs air and it needs nutrients. But they're the only animal that has this ribs flattened out, and then sternum or gastralia or stomach ribs flattened on the belly to give them their bottom, which is called the plastron, and their top, which is called the carapace. And so they're the only animal that has this configuration, which gives them great defense, but it stops a lot of evolutionary paths because they are contained in this certain type of shell. And they're fairly ancient. This happened a long time ago. I mean, before the Devonian.
Back when Dennis was a kid.
Yeah. So, from the Devonian to the Cretaceous is when it.
No kidding. Well, that was our next question.
Yeah, it kind of led into talking about their evolution and why did they develop a shell rather than like snakes or lizards that obviously didn't. So what about the soft shells and the hard shells? Like how did they evolve and why did they diverge there?
Okay, so it was 2 different lines, and so soft shells and leatherbacks are both aquatic, almost fully aquatic chelonians or turtles, and it's cartilage instead of bone. So in the embryonic, it's cartilage, and then it ossifies to become bone. In the soft shells, it stays cartilaginous and therefore flexible. Okay. The other part is they both have scales. People think that soft shells don't have scales, but they have what we call alpha keratin scales. It's keratin, but it's flexible soft keratin, whereas turtles and tortoises and snakes have what we call beta keratin, which is stiff and rigid over that. And so it's both keratin covered. The other thing is that what we think the reason for the development or adaptation of the soft shell is they're in sandy rivers most of the part, okay, or the ocean, and therefore they can hide in those areas, and they don't have a lot of weight because the shell, being solid bone, adds a lot of weight, and that changes buoyancy. So if you want to dig down in the sand, okay, then if you are a soft shell, then you can easily scooter in that sand and not try to kind of constantly that buoyancy floating you back up.
I remember being at the SRAM education center and watching our little spiny soft shells just go, and all of a sudden it was a disappearing act, and they're just under the gravel, just their little heads sticking out. That was pretty cool.
That is cool.
And so the soft shell is an adaptation that allows them to do something like that, which is probably really important in a river.
Right. And it seems that most soft shells also have a very long neck and a long snout, so they can reach up to get oxygen, because turtles, unlike amphibians, can't breathe through the skin. Chelonians have to breathe through their lungs. So even sea turtles that spend 80 years out in the ocean have to come up and break a wave and get oxygen in their lungs and then go back down. So all turtles breathe with the lung, with the one exception, the soft shells, which actually have a tracheal lung that allows them to breathe through their trachea, acting like a gill.
Wow.
And they're one of the only turtles that can do that.
That's fascinating.
Amazing.
Well, I
We'll
think
get there.
I think
we'll get there. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, we're getting ahead.
we're gonna
of
have
we're
to
getting
talk
ahead of
about.
ourselves.
We're
Yeah.
gonna have to talk about that.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of diversity in the world. Chris, can you talk to us a little bit about how many species of turtles are there in the world? Are they a fairly big group compared to the other types of reptiles? Kind of what's their habitat and diversity? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Are they found on every continent?
Yeah, are they found everywhere?
So they're found on every continent except for Antarctica, just like a lot of animal families. I'm not 100% certain right off the top of my head how many species of turtles there are. You have
4,300 approximately.
Dennis's metal.
4,300?
But they do, as we've kind of talked, they live in an incredibly diverse number of environments. So there are turtles that live in mountains, like the Burmese mountain tortoises that live in places where it gets very, very cold and has a real short growing season. There are turtles that live at some of the deeper parts of the ocean. There are turtles that only live on coral reefs. There's turtles that only live in grasslands. And so they've kind of adapted to live basically everywhere. And although turtles don't live in trees, it's not completely unheard of even to see box turtles or painted turtles climb a short way up onto a tree or a bush to get either to get food or to get basking access to the sun or something like that.
So you mentioned, or sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, even though people think of a shell as their home, their shell is basically just their body, and they make their home pretty much anywhere that other animals are capable of living.
So I've heard you mention tortoises, turtles, and then some people might have heard of terrapins. Can you quickly break down the differences of those animals, and that yes, there is a difference between turtles, tortoises, and terrapins?
Yeah, actually, there's 3 orders under turtles. One is all the sea turtles. Okay, they're completely different. They live in salt water. And then there's tortoises, which we don't have any in Nebraska, and very few in North America. We have desert and gopher tortoises in North America, but they're another order, and they are primarily, one of the biggest differences about tortoises, they're 100% herbivores, whereas turtles are carnivorous or omnivores, and sea turtles can be, some of them are herbivores and some of them are omnivores and some are carnivores, depending on the sea turtle. So there's 3 distinct groups, and that would be sea turtles, and tortoises. Terrapin is more of an English European version of a turtle.
Okay.
So there isn't a good family order designation that goes with terrapins. We call some turtles on the East Coast terrapins. In Europe, they call a lot of their turtles terrapins. And sometimes if it's aquatic turtle, they call it a terrapin. If it's a semi-aquatic turtle, they call it a turtle. And then, just like Nebraska, we have a terrestrial turtle called the box turtle. And box turtles are in the same family as a painted turtle. Okay, so
and yet a lot of people think they're tortoises because they're
right, they're not. So it's not a land. I mean, those little box turtles are carnivores. You ever see them go after a pinky mouse or baby bird that's fallen in the nest? and the blood squirting, and they're just going crazy over it. You know,
Happy Halloween, happy
they're
Halloween.
they're little dinosaurs. You know?
Mhm, mhm.
Now, one
Okay.
thing that isn't universal, but that you'll notice a lot when you're looking at turtles versus tortoises as well, is that tortoises have a foot that looks almost like an elephant's foot. It's very
Mm.
tubular and flat on the bottom,
Mhm.
and the fingernails and toes are incorporated into what looks like the foot, whereas most of what get called turtles have a foot where the toes lay flat and they have claws that stick out and things like that. So again, not a universal rule, but if you look at a lot of things like, you know, the sulcata tortoise and the leopard tortoise and the gopher tortoise and things like that, they look different than a box turtle in many ways, and one of them that jumps right out is the way that their feet are structured, so
That's a
that
good
they
distinction.
are able to walk around and carry larger loads on their toes without hurting them.
And I think it's called elphiform
Yeah.
after elephants, because
What's it
elephants
called?
have this thing. Elphiform or elephant.
Okay.
Because if you ever see if an elephant's foot is just like a tortoise's foot, where you have these big fingernails, you know, that you can paint, and not long claws.
Mm-hmm. Painted fingernails. That's great. Okay. Well, cool. So 4,300 species around the world. We have sea turtles. We have other freshwater turtles, and we have tortoises. I think we understand the difference now. That's good.
Yeah.
What about now? We're going to zoom into our beautiful state of Nebraska. What's happening in the turtle world in Nebraska? What's kind of like the diversity? What species are found? What's the overall kind of turtles in Nebraska vibe?
What's the vibe?
What's the vibe?
Can I quickly share a PowerPoint?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's see.
Are you able to share? No.
No, it says I'm not
One,
able to.
go ahead. We'll fix that.
I didn't know if I should give you access, Dennis. That was the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, you should be able to now.
Okay. You got it?
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, let's see if you're seeing the whole PowerPoint. Oops, let's get back to the beginning. So,
We got it.
okay, so we have a Blandy's turtle and a snapping turtle here. You have the first page, I see. So, this is the diversity and abundance of the turtles of Nebraska. We have 9 turtles that fit into 4 phylogenetic families.
Mhm.
Cheloniidae, Emnides, and Chemosternidae, and Trionatidae. And so most of them are this one that you know of. And the first one we want to talk about is the snapping turtle. And we're going to grab one over here. And while I'm grabbing that, you can look at what was at my lab and is now at Shrimp Park. This is the eastern common snapping turtle, which is the only snapping turtle in Nebraska. This is a record. This is, so to speak, the world record eastern common snapper. He weighed in at 90 pounds. I estimate him to be over 80 years old, and he was found in the Missouri River. He has trouble walking on land. And you can see he's in a 1,000-gallon aquarium that I'm standing in there with employee from Game Parks as we carry him out. It takes 2 people to carry him. And he ate a lot of carrion. He wouldn't eat too much fish, but he loved.
Tell them his name.
Are you gonna share his name? It's the best part.
Okay, Game and Parks named him Big Snap Daddy.
Which is a great name.
Big Snap Daddy. Everybody loves him. He's
He
still
just
at Shram
had his
Education Center.
93rd birthday.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
You can
Where's
still
that?
see him if you go to Shram Education Center. He's pretty incredible to see up close.
again, here in this other camera. So now I'm going to stop sharing
Okay.
and bring you guys over to our turtle cam.
We have a live turtle cam tonight. This is a first for Nature Nerd Night. Look
Okay,
at
so
this.
this is a 3-year-old snapping turtle. He accidentally got ran over by a bike when he was very young.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And he's still upset about it. As you
yeah,
can
so
tell.
he'll probably be released because he can do quite well. And you can see they have abbreviated underneath for a plastron. It's just like a little
So this
vest.
here is their sternum, as Dennis was saying.
Okay.
This is the chest bone, basically.
Yep. And then this is the top shell, and you can see their tail. Turn around here for you. It's very much like a dinosaur tail.
Absolutely.
Now, these turtles lay a lot of eggs, like 40 eggs. And they will lay them in June, the female, and they won't hatch till September. And they look like ping pong balls. No other turtle in Nebraska has eggs that look like ping pong balls. But this is a hatchling. It just hatched
Oh, he's so cute.
3 weeks ago.
How long ago?
3 weeks.
Dennis, can I say something kind of wild? I've seen them like smaller than that even.
Yeah, must have been a big mother who laid less eggs.
Because like I've seen them like quarter
yeah.
size, tiny before.
Well, we've been feeding this guy
okay.
a
Well,
lot.
so
too,
Dennis is the mother now. So.
Oh, my students have been feeding him.
Okay.
Okay, so it's been growing quite well.
Like
Look at that
stiff as a
tiny-
board. He like
And
won't
I
move.
noticed they have such a small plastron compared to other turtle species, that bottom shell.
Right.
Is there an advantage to that?
They're bottom feeders. They don't
Mm.
need to protect themselves from a predator chewing at their bottom. So snapping turtles are bottom feeders. So they just need to protect their back.
Mm-hmm.
That's why their back is so spiny and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because predators would come down on them like this.
Amazing. At the end, we should have everybody, participants vote for their favorite that they see tonight.
Yes,
Put it in the chat.
favorite turtle.
Okay, so number one, we have our common snapping turtle. What is next in Nebraska?
Okay. Let's see.
This is pretty exciting.
Yeah, this is a first for nature.
This is
Nerd
the
Night.
first for Nature Night,
We're
yep.
gonna get our painted turtle, which
Okay.
is probably our most common in the state after the snapping turtle. Now, the snapping turtle is found statewide,
Mm-hmm.
and the snapping turtle is a game species. It's the only chelonian in Nebraska that's a game species.
Which means what's the season, or what's that look like?
Means you have to have a fishing license in order to catch them.
Okay.
And there are size and length limits on them, as well as season that you can catch them.
Okay.
A lot of people like to catch them, and I will admit, even as much of a turtle lover as I am, because I have the friends that I have eaten snapping turtle before. It's not the worst thing in the world that I've ever eaten.
Is it just kind of like a swampy chicken taste, or?
So if you take them home and you keep them in clear water and let their systems clean out, they're not too bad. If you eat them the night that you catch them, they will taste like the lake that you caught them in.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
tips. Thank you so much.
yeah,
I'm
definitely.
gonna pre-water my turtles in the future.
Okay, this is our painted turtle. This is about a 4-year-old. They are very small, and they hatch. Some in the southern part of the state will hatch in September. Some will overwinter as ready to hatch and not hatch till the spring. So they have about a 68 to 72 day incubation in the egg, and their eggs are oblong. They're very colorful underneath. This one is worn out a little, and this color is camouflage, because if you're a gar going after a small turtle and you look up at the light breaking the surface, it looks like swirls of orange and red. So this is camouflage from a predator from underneath coming. Whereas this is camouflage from a raccoon trying to eat it. It looks like a rock.
Did you know that?
If you've ever been to a lake, you've either seen these things sitting on logs, or else they'll just float right under the surface of the water with their heads up on really hot days.
Mm-hmm.
You can get their sunlight. So this is 90% of the time, if you see a turtle, this is what you're seeing.
Painted turtle, northern painted turtle.
Doesn't it, Dennis, is it true that they get sunburned, or they will lose their bright colors over time? They'll kind of change into a darker color as they age?
As they age, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Because if you're bigger than this, a gar probably can't eat you.
Okay.
Plus,
And they don't
in
need
captivity,
They don't need it, I
energy
guess,
for that. Yeah, cool.
in captivity, or if they're in sandy areas, they seem to wear down the color. but out in the wild, I've seen them bigger than this and still be very vividly colored.
Okay.
And I can back that up. I'm bigger than this turtle, and I also have never been eaten by a gar. So
Okay,
check.
thank you so
Well,
much,
that's so
Chris.
good.
Thank you. That's
Science
important
fact.
data.
Someone in the chat asked if they get their color from what they eat, very similar to like flamingos or something, or is it
Good
just
question.
they just have that color?
Well, it's chromatophores that they have when they are born or hatched, okay, genetically. So when they come out of the egg, before they've eaten anything, they are very vividly colored. However, there's probably things in their diet that helps keep that color. But we found with most turtles, the thing that helps keep their color is UVB light. And these are basking turtles that need a lot of UVB light. And we give them a lot of UVB light, and they seem to keep their color better.
Good.
Interesting. So we got snapping turtle,
Snapping
we got
turtle,
painted turtle.
Yep.
All right. What's next, Dennis?
A slider.
All
Now-
right.
Later.
Now, this
Not the
is
hamburger slider.
not a hamburger slider. This is a yellow ear, or excuse me, a red ear slider. There is yellow belly sliders, but let me share real quickly something.
He's shy.
We'll give him a moment.
So this is the painted turtles range.
All over the state.
Here I am doing some work for Game and Parks at Two Rivers, and in this one fike net, I have over 25 painted turtles.
Holy smokes. Wow.
So that was out for 24 hours, so that's a good population. I almost couldn't grab, and they were all weighed, measured, and released. Oops. Skip the landings and box, go to slider. So you can see this is the red ear slider sneaks up into Nebraska. It was first found in 1976 by John Lynch. And we know we have native populations that came up from Kansas and Missouri in both Richardson and Nemaha County. However, you can find red ear sliders and other sliders in Omaha, Lincoln, Grand Island, North Platte, any place where they have a pet store.
Oh, okay.
The red ear slider is used in the pet trade. And the ones that I've constantly get given to me from the Humane Society, for one, we never let those back out because they're invasive. And they're overtaking our painted turtles. But let me go back now, stop sharing, and show you. If I can't get this, this one is pretty older, but it's much smaller, and this one is a native one. Okay, so this one comes from Richardson County.
So Dennis, is there a way for you to tell if I'm in a pond near Grand Island or maybe down there where they're found? How can you tell it's a native slider versus one that was released from?
Well, mainly by looking at them, I can tell they've been in captivity a lot of times, just because of the way they are and the way they grew. But the only way we can tell 100% is to do a DNA sample.
So like a normal person,
yeah,
how could they say and look at
just
them?
the way they are.
Just the way they are. Like,
I wish I could get this one to take its head out, because its red ear is just a red line, and it's very vividly red, and that's what only ones I've seen in the wild in Nebraska are that way. Not to say all are that way, but here's what I would say from everything I know: if you find it outside of a pond in the middle of nowhere in Richardson or Nemaha County, it's a released pet or offspring of a released pet. Okay, and if I can say anything, get it out of the wild. Keep it as a pet until it dies.
Which is only like 80 to 90 years. So
Oh yeah, not a huge commitment. Nope. Just
less than that.
put it in your will.
Or ship it back to the southeast United States where it came from, where they farm them for the pet shops.
And as far as, do they just outcompete like foraging habitat with painted turtles
Yeah.
as their main threat?
Right. With the painteds, there'll be a competitor, almost an even competitor on dietary needs, but they grow bigger. And to me, they're more voracious. If I put a pet Raider slider in an aquarium, a 200-gallon aquarium, that's what we use, with a painted of the same carapace size, the Raider slider will just beat up on that painted. Steal its food, chase it around.
Steal its lunch money. Sounds like.
Yeah, take their lunch money and stuff like that.
All right.
So I guess the biggest thing is with all animals that you get from a pet store, never, ever, ever, ever put them back in the wild.
Yeah.
They're better
For
off,
sure.
euthanize them and put back in the wild. Most of them will die.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens that the Raider slider has adapted to our colder weathers. Well, our weather's getting warmer, so they're able
Yeah,
to.
and I think that's a really good message, Dennis, because I know people, even people who love animals who are really kind-hearted and well-intended, if they, don't want to keep a pet anymore, they think, oh, the best thing I can do at least is give it a good home outside.
Outside, yeah, where
But
it's natural.
Like you mentioned, often it's not a good outcome for the animal itself, and often it's even a worse outcome for the wild animals that habit that habitat.
So
So
we'll
good
go
message.
on and show you a Blanding's turtle.
Blanding's turtle.
This is my favorite.
Is it really?
I'm so excited. I love
Yeah,
landing.
this is what I voted for the state turtle, but I didn't.
I think I voted for it too. I'm not gonna lie.
The Blanding's turtle, there's more Blanding's turtles in Nebraska than the whole rest of the world put together.
No way.
Yes, we're the stronghold. So
You know-
the last piece of data I showed pointed to the fact that since they are critically endangered in many states like New England, parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and in Nebraska, we probably easily have at Valentine Refuge, where I've done a lot of work with them there, we probably have over 100,000 in Nebraska.
Wow.
But
Dennis, can you show off his pretty neck and his chin? That's the best part.
They're always smiling.
Yeah. They have this really bright colored.
Hi,
The yellow neck and chin. It's like a signature for Blanding's turtle.
I also love the top, their carapace, their top shell. It looks like the night sky. That's what, it's
Yeah.
like stars across its shell.
So Dennis, why are they more kind of dome shaped than like the slider or the painted turtle?
Good question.
These are a semi-aquatic turtle that lives in sand pit ponds. Doesn't usually like rivers, even though they could be in rivers, or ponds that are like dams and things like that. And they travel a lot in between. They do live to be much older than some of the others. And we are finding out that they don't become sexually mature until 17 or 20 years old.
Wow.
And the males travel a long way in between ponds to help with genetic diversity. And that's what's causing their surmise, is that they travel a lot. And when they get bigger, sexually mature, they're bigger than this. This one's probably not quite sexually mature yet. They get almost twice that size. But they can tuck in, and a coyote or raccoon can't kill them. But they're no match for a vehicle.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of that, like the habitat connectivity across.
Right.
Like,
So in Cherry County, Nebraska, we literally only have one road that goes through their habitat that's a highway where there's a lot of traffic. All the rest of the roads are all gravel. And under that road, as of 23 years ago, we have tunnels for them.
turtle tunnels.
Turtle tunnels. We have 7 turtle. Well, no, in Valentine Refuge, we have 4 turtle tunnels and over 4 miles of fence directing them to the tunnels to allow them not to be run over.
Has that been a successful conservation story, Dennis? Has that had some impact?
Well, so far we have a great data showing a great reduction in roadkill, and we need to get more because they are such long-lived. It takes a long time to get reproductive data. It appears that we do have genetic diversity, so they are exchanging across the tunnels. So males are running through the tunnels and mating on this side to allow for genetic diversity, which they need a lot of.
Yeah,
A relevant question, Dennis, is you said Nebraska has the most. What makes Nebraska special that although these are endangered, that Nebraska has so many in our state?
No roads.
Mm.
No roads through their habitat,
So that's kind of their biggest threat.
or very few roads through their habitat.
Mm.
Also, Nebraska was proactive in protecting them
Right.
before wild collecting for the pet trade really figured out that there were that many of them here. So while they were being over collected and disappearing in other states and they were listing them as threatened or endangered, Nebraska listed them as threatened right off the bat,
Nice.
so that we never got that low. So it was.
Good job, Nebraska.
Yeah, we did something
really
right.
got it.
And it is, I mean, we even have, I mean, for years now, we have stopped people will come in and take our box turtles, which I'll show you in a little while. And we have stopped any commercial permits for turtles in the state of Nebraska. So you can't borrow, sell, trade any reptile in the state of Nebraska legally.
Wild caught.
Wild caught, yeah. Anything that's native. And if you catch something and it lays eggs when you bring it home, those eggs are still wild and come under that law. And it's very plainly
It's still
written.
great. It's important to remember everything that helps with conservation and law and policy is definitely one of them. So that's amazing.
Now, since
So
Dennis mentioned it, just as a reminder to everyone that ever brought one home like I did or thinks about bringing one home, in Nebraska, it is illegal anytime you collect any kind of wildlife, regardless of what species it is, especially turtles, and this even goes for frogs and toads. It is illegal to release it more than 24 hours after it's been taken into captivity, and it's illegal to release it more than 100 yards from the exact spot you caught it. So if you do take something home, don't ever take it back. If you have buyer's remorse the next day, that's
maybe the moral of the story is when you see it in its home, say hello to it. It's so exciting you got to see it, and then wish it
Love them and leave them wild.
Love them and leave them. Yeah, I like that.
If
Who do we
you
have
know-
here?
If you know someone who accidentally has done that, I get a lot of land use turtles from COs, conservation officers in Canyon Park. I mean, literally 5 a year that were confiscated because people took them out of the wild or tried to use them in a turtle race, which is completely illegal.
Is this a baby blanding right
Yes,
here?
it is.
It's
Yes,
very
it
cute.
is.
The baby blanding.
So cute. Oh.
These guys are what, 3 or 4 now?
Between 3 and 4 years old, yeah.
Wow, he's still so little.
Look at, I love that
They're
bottom.
slow growers.
Yeah.
Slow growers.
So we've seen 4 species already. We only have about 20 minutes left, Dennis. I just want to
Okay.
warn you. I want to make sure everyone gets to see all 9 species tonight. So should we take a guess on which is next?
What's that one?
Oh, was that a false map?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Ooh.
I taught you ladies good.
Yeah, you did.
Good thing it wasn't English.
Yeah.
I only know Latin names. I don't know any-
So false map.
Yep.
Full name.
We'll share the range of faults map in it real quickly here.
These ones are so cool. They're so spiky
They
looking.
have the like pretty yellow lines, like the bright yellow lines on their face.
And why are they called map turtles, Dennis? Is it?
If you look at the side of their head, it looks like contours, like a map.
It's the side of their head. Okay.
And they have that pretty like heart-shaped shell.
And you can see
They have a really like a sawtooth line across their
Yeah.
back. Makes them really distinctive.
Yeah.
there.
Is that because they're found in rivers and they need that extra protection?
It's one of the reasons. Plus, it's a lot of phylogenics. But look at all the lines. which is-
It looks like he has scrunchy.
Got some shy turtles tonight.
Look at all that extra skin. Can you imagine like wearing a turtleneck all the time?
You don't need a, yeah, it's a
and
literal
having that
turtleneck.
extra- yeah, a turtleneck.
That's where the
The
name
back of
I'm
the, back
guessing.
of,
Okay.
that's what the back of the carapace looks like, all these little spikes.
Yeah, it definitely looks more spiky than the painted and the slider.
And they do get bigger in this, and they're found mainly in the Missouri River, or probably within a mile or so, most of the time, of tributaries into the Missouri River.
Okay, so just on the very eastern side of Nebraska then, huh?
Yeah, let me
You're
show
not
you.
going to see these across the state.
Right, I'll give you.
Where all the big rivers are.
Dennis, there's a more southern species that's found in Missouri that we occasionally see in Nebraska. That's
Mississippi map turtle.
Mississippi map turtle. Okay.
I do have a little one, but I didn't bring it out as one of 9. It is actually a subspecies of the false.
Okay.
So it's not, yeah. So it's here, maybe it's starting to put its head out. You can do it, you can do it.
We trained for this, come on.
You know,
What do they eat? What do these ones eat?
fish, crayfish, worms.
Kind of everything. They'll
Yeah.
eat dead ant, they'll eat carrion, they'll eat roadkill,
River kill.
river kill.
So we'll keep moving. Oh, now you
Yeah,
should
now
see
the Blandings.
the Blandings has his head up like this, and you see all the yellow.
We're just gonna, oh man.
Nah.
We'll just have to go see one at Tram, I guess.
Yeah. They do have big paddle feet, and I love them too. All right, what is next, Dennis?
So it's gonna be a box turtle.
Mud turtle. That's my guess.
Another member of the water turtle family, Monica, what's it gonna be?
The water turtle family?
I don't know. An alligator snapping turtle.
Almost.
We don't have those.
We do
in
not
Nebraska.
have those. I know. I'm just kidding, Dennis. I wanted to see your reaction.
The box. Oh yeah, the box turtle.
Oh, look at him
No, what a sweet.
or her. I can't tell.
It's a her.
Okay.
How can you tell, Dennis?
Well, males have very colorful scales on the front forearms, and sometimes have colorful eyes, but they don't have to. The biggest thing is the colorfulness on the front forearms of the male, and then look down here. Look how short and stubby that tiny little tail is, with the quakel opening being up underneath there, whereas the male will have a longer tail with the quakel opening being partly down.
So something that a lot of people might not know is that coming up here at the end, since October is Nebraska Reptile Month, next Friday, the 28th, the governor is actually going to sign into decree and give his, I don't know, christening of the turtle. But this is going to be our first ever state reptile right here. So very cool thing.
Huge
Nebraska
announcement.
does not have a state reptile.
Congratulations.
Everyone already thinks that we do have one, but he's officially signing that into, I guess, legislation, decree, whatever it's called, next Friday.
Can I make a comment? This is really exciting, and all the students learn about our Nebraska bird, our state mammal. They're now going to be starting to learn about our state reptile, the box turtle. And I just want to say, this has been like the hard work for 5 years of this amazing woman right here, who is the biggest advocate for reptiles in the state, besides maybe the folks up here.
Yeah.
So Monica did a lot of work to get this, to do the handshake with the governor next Friday, and it's box turtle is our state reptile. So
yeah, very
so
exciting. So really
Congratulations,
appreciate our
box turtle.
turtles. Yeah.
does the box turtle even know how famous they're going to be?
No. Do they care? No.
Well, hopefully it's helpful.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, so I have students that have been following a number of these in the Sandhills at our research station, Cedar Point. We have transmitters on 36 right now, and
Nice.
they've been followed for 10 years. So we're getting a real lot of data on these.
How long do these ones live?
Oh, easily 60 years.
60, man. Getting up there with the new lifespan.
Yeah. So it's kind of easy to see how this one, a lot of people think are members of the tortoise family. It looks very, very different. Like Chris
dome
mentioned.
shape.
Yeah, it's very different. Like Chris said, the claws are different versus a tortoise versus these guys, but clearly a lot smaller, a lot more heavy than those.
The pens or paws are the same, are like a turtle.
Yes. And
Yeah.
Dennis mentioned earlier the word keratin. So that keratin is what makes up their claws, their shell, different parts of their body, their tomia or their beak. People have that on them too. That's your hair, that's your fingernails. It's the same substance. It just looks very different on different animals.
And Monica, thank you for using Tamiya.
You're welcome, Dennis. I said beak / tomia so that people know, but yeah.
So this thing right here, that's a show.
That's about to bite Dennis.
Yeah, that's a Tamiya over the, right there, over the bone.
So turtles don't have teeth.
No turtle. Really ancient turtles have teeth, but yeah, no. Now some sea turtles have serrated Tamiyas, but.
All right, we have 3 turtles left.
Okay.
We got about 10 minutes, Dennis, just so you know.
Okay, we're gonna do it.
We'll do it. We're fine.
Next one is it has its own family, and this one lives over 80 years.
It's a mud
Is
turtle.
this the
And
mud
they're
turtle?
slow reproducers,
Is.
and they only lay 1 egg at a time and maybe 2 or 3 eggs a year.
Really?
And they have a split. Let me get the range up for you.
And what is this called?
The yellow?
Okay, what is it called?
The
Yellow mud turtle.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't know that, Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis, come on. You're supposed to be the expert.
I was trying to find this.
Can't do 2 things at once.
So you could.
That's an interesting range. So kind of just central, not western, not
And look at
eastern.
it like divided.
Yeah.
Area.
So
What's
we
happening?
have this one in the Republican Valley,
Okay.
and then we have them in the Sand Hills living sympatric or at the same place as the Blandings.
Mm.
So, the only place I can find them is down here. And John Iverson, who's at University of Indiana, has been studying these for his whole career. Comes in from Indiana every year. He's gotten a lot of data on them.
And Dennis, aren't these the only turtles in the world that like completely nest underground? Is that right?
No, I think there's some others, but one of the few.
Okay.
Yeah. But
What's special about our yellow mud turtles? What's something interesting about?
well, they're slow reproduction.
Okay.
This is a full-grown female,
Mm.
not very big. They live over 80 years.
Wow.
One thing I think is cool about them is they have 4 little tubercles that stick down off of their chin that they use to find food in muddy water where it's murky and they can't see. Almost like a catfish uses its barbels.
And the females don't have a tail, but they have a little hook. So you can see that.
Interesting. And so the males will have a little bit more of a tail there.
The males have a big tail, comes out about that, see, about that far. And this little hook here is what the females have.
Right.
Okay, and they're also in a family, King that is related to what we call stink pot turtles. And they are a musk turtle. You will smell them.
Is that a pheromone for communication between males and females? Is that like a predatory response? What's the point of the musk?
It's more to keep predators away.
Okay. Well, I'm sure it works.
Next we have our 2 soft shells. That's our spiny soft shell. And it has that one little nose that comes up. If you look in the nose, each of the nostrils has a little tubule or a little divider in the bottom half. And that's really one of the only ways to tell the smooth from the spiny. The other thing is the spiny has these little, I don't know if you can see them, they're little bumps right on the front of the, right along here. Hard to.
Yeah, kind of. It feels a little more scratchy than it looks.
Yeah, it feels very scratchy. I don't know. I can't get them on the camera. There we go.
We can kind of see it. Yeah, we can see that texture on the reflection.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then
These guys are fast too. They don't look like it.
And let me tell you, Chris was saying this, bite for bite, These guys are worse than a snapping turtle.
I'd rather
Yes.
try a
Mhm.
snapper any day. A snapper bites and hangs on. These guys have a little triangular shaped mouth, and when they bite you, it just takes a pie-shaped chunk of skin out like a paper punch.
Ooh,
Hmm.
fun.
Thank you
Is
for
that
that
right?
Look at their
description.
long little legs.
I know.
Oh, they're
Look
so
at
cute. Those
those
big
webbed
paddles.
feet.
Look
Yeah.
underneath there.
Wait till it tries to bite him, and you can see how long its neck is.
Yeah, the neck could go halfway across down the body.
Can you test that out, Dennis?
I'm trying.
No, I'm just kidding. Don't actually give it.
It's okay.
So is this about the size? Do they get any bigger than this? These
They
spinies?
get bigger. They get as big as big dinner
They
plates.
get about 18 to 20 inches. The big
Okay.
A huge turtle.
Yeah, that is awesome. But aren't the smooth bigger?
And here is our smooth soft shell. So no little pokey things.
Hmm.
And look right up in that nose. You see two holes
Yeah.
with no little things in the nostrils.
He's so cute. He's just blinking. He has no idea how famous he is.
Yeah.
How old is this one, Dennis? It looks smaller, but I know
Yeah,
do you get bigger?
this one we got as a hatchling.
Mm.
These are harder to find. Let me go to the range map real quick, and then that'll be it. That's all 9 turtles.
Did it?
So there's our spiny soft shell. So most of the waterways in the state. And here's our smooth. And right now, the only place I can find smooths are up off the Missouri River up here. I have trouble finding them in this other area. I find mainly only spinies throughout this area. But if I want a smooth, I have to look in backwaters in this area up here.
And you can definitely tell like the difference in habitat preference between the smooth and spiny about lakes versus rivers. If you go
Yeah,
to
definitely.
a lake or sand pit, you can probably find a spiny.
Right.
But if you go to the river, you're only going to find smooths.
Except for the flat. The flat has spines.
Yeah, the flat has probably.
The flat is flat and braided.
Right.
So now that we've seen the 9 species of turtles, we kind of talked a little bit about what they are, their life history a little bit, and their evolution. Nebraska. Dennis and Chris, why should Nebraskans care about turtles, and what can they do to help turtles thrive in Nebraska? Just in a couple sentences, why should they care, and what can they do to help them?
They have a great intrinsic value in the ecosystem. They wouldn't be here unless they had each one had a great value. That's the way the ecosystem's put together. And they bring energy from an aquatic system to a terrestrial system, around a terrestrial system. The box turtle transports seeds because they eat a lot of rose hips and prickly pear cactus fruit to get vitamin C to make it over the winter. So they eat a lot of protein in the spring, and then they turn to carbohydrates in the fall right now. And so they're seed distributors. They work on fish, and so they're important predator-prey in the whole system.
And they're cute.
I don't know.
I mean, like, have you ever met someone that's like, I don't like turtles?
Right.
Like you hear the snakes and lizards
Yep.
thing, but like never someone, I don't like turtles.
Or afraid of them.
Or
anything.
afraid or anything, yeah.
No.
So we had a few good questions from the audience, and one that Amber and I kind of hush-hushed about last time, like earlier. When you talked about breathing, we're going to talk about their butt breathing because we know what happened.
So everyone
Their
wants to know,
cloacal breathing.
right? And
But
this,
yeah,
it's the coolest thing. And I remember when the movie Frozen came out, and Olaf like gave our favorite fact away about turtles can breathe through their butt. And so if you want to chat about how do Nebraska turtles survive the winter, just kind of at large, because a lot of our lightning round questions had to do with that. And it's a really good question. We don't see them in winter. So where did they go? What happened?
Well, it depends on the species. So the box turtle is going to go down a burrow, dig its way down, stay down in the soil. Okay. Most of the aquatic turtles, like the painted, the blandings, will go to the bottom of a pond. While in the bottom of the pond, their metabolism is super, super slow, so they don't need a lot of oxygen. But they are coacal opening that usually they void their waste out of, but they're not eating, so it's not being used for that, is very vascular. And there have been some papers out, we really need to do more, that this vascular coagular opening along with two very vascular bladders, like urinary bladders, that come off the coagular opening. They're not from the kidneys, they come off the coagular opening, are very vascular and act as a gill, taking oxygen out of the water. So even though you may know a lot of people who speak out of that part of the body, these turtles actually breathe out of that part of the body.
It's the best. That's a pretty cool fact. That's how they survive the
Yeah.
winter. That's pretty cool.
Now, one cool thing about painted turtles is their very first year, they can actually freeze in the ice completely solid. And then when spring thaws come, they can warm up and be fine. It doesn't work as well after that, but it seems to be like a built-in insurance policy about picking up early or hatching during the winter that they're equipped to do. I don't know if other turtles that we
There are
have
a
in
number
Nebraska do
that,
that.
what they do is, no, it's only in Nebraska, but they actually go full term in the egg, but it's too late in the year. And so they stay in that egg and ice forms all around it. And literally they have ice on their body and then they come out in the spring.
Huh.
That's
Wow,
fascinating.
That is cool.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. There's a few questions I'm seeing in the chat, just trying to keep on top of them. Somebody asked, are there turtles on display somewhere we can see them up close? And one thought I have is, I've mentioned before, Schramm Education Center, which is located near Gretna, Nebraska. They have, at least last time I was there, they have 8 of the 9 species there. I think the only one they were missing was smooth green. But other opportunities to see turtles. Do you want to talk about?
I mean,
Thursday night?
Wildcat Hills has a few.
Wildcat Hills?
Yeah, Wildcat Hills also has a few, but anyone in the Lincoln or kind of the eastern part of the state, we have a big Reptiles of Nebraska event coming up on Thursday on East Campus. If you're familiar with Hardin Hall, it's about 33rd and Holdridge here in Lincoln. Dennis will actually be there. I think Chris will be there as well, having a bunch of displays. So Dennis has a lab that he's at right now with all the animals that he's brought out tonight. He'll have a bottom display of all the turtles, and then upstairs he will have the snakes. So there's a spot where you can bring students, you can bring kids, your families, and then as well as all the live animals that will be there, there will also be family friendly activities about reptiles too. So and very cool stickers. Like if anyone likes stickers, I'm pretty excited about these stickers.
It's gonna be a fun night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Schramm Park has quite a few, and they all came from the lab, from my lab. But also I've given a lot to Platte River.
Platte River?
So there's a number there, and they'll come back here for the winter from Platte River because their nature center closes. But Schramm is open year round, so those guys are there year round.
Okay. What about really good books recommended if people just love turtles, they want to learn more about turtles? Let's hear it. Turtles, the Animal Answer Guide. What's the author?
Wick Gibbons. You can't get any better than Wick Gibbons.
All right.
And then there's several on just different ones. So if you're really into the biology and physiology.
Biology of Turtles by Jeanette Wyneken, Matthew Godfrey, and Vincent Bells. Sweetness.
And for any of you that might not be able to see, or someone has just asked about that event, Amber and I always send out everyone that registered for this event tonight, whether you're here or not, you will get an email with some resources and some just information about those events, and also our next Nature Nerd Night.
Yeah.
We will send you an email tomorrow morning with all that information. But just again, really quick, it's on Thursday. Someone that just asked that, a big event. It's on Thursday in Hardin Hall in Lincoln on East Campus. And it's that big event, that family-friendly event. Also, for any of you that are interested in this Nature Nerd brand or this idea that we've had, we have a trivia night tomorrow night. We have 5 different ones actually throughout the state. So we have one in Lincoln, Omaha, Wayne, Scottsbluff, and North Platte. So 7 to 9 p.m. We can also send that information as well, but it's all about the ugly, unloved, and unseen animals. So
there may be some turtle questions.
Oh, yeah. It's about me?
No.
But this is a good young adult. So my 9-year-old granddaughter got one of these when she was 8.
Men of the Mississippi.
Right. And it talks about a snapping turtle, eastern common snapping turtle, being born up in Minnesota and going all the way down to New Orleans. It's long, and all its all its little adventures on the Mississippi.
It's a lot of words,
That's
Dennis.
awesome.
It's for a 9-year-old or 8-year-old, not like your daughter.
No, sorry, Tori would not be interested.
I'll get it for Sawyer, okay?
It's good for a young reader. It's not
Good.
scientific in it, but it does give them a lot of good stuff.
That's good.
And we can
Dennis
also
can
put
follow-
all this information too in the email. Sorry, Chris, to cut you off there.
Oh, you're fine. I just said Dennis was able to follow the book, so.
Yep.
All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We hope that you learned a lot about our Nebraska turtles. We have one more Nature Nerd Night left this year.
Wow.
Right, October, November.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
So November, we're going to be talking about carnivores.
Carnivore ecology.
Carnivore ecology. So we will send an email with all that information on how to register, what the date is, and the information again for you that missed it. We're also recording this so we can put it on our education YouTube channel. Otherwise, again, thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Chris, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Especially that this was a first for Nature Nerd Night. All the amazing
species.
live creatures.
This
So
is awesome.
that was
So,
pretty cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.